Me, a bro.
Yep.
He, a dude.
That's good stuff. All right. Let's try it. Okay. Welcome to the We Will Journey podcast. We're talking about faith and life as it happens, and not the glossy exterior we wish it was.
Ah,
What, man? What did I do wrong?
I think you said it's because all the things I was thinking about before. But we can edit that. You got that part good.
Oh.
You got it good. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay, just.
Now it's your turn.
Good.
Yeah.
Wait. We're going to get under the surface. I should have said all those things before. We should have waited. Down and dirty until after we read this part.
Okay.
Okay. Wait. We get under the surface and explore the down and dirty. Okay. Maybe we should. It doesn't have to be word for word, right?
No. I mean, I gave an interpretation.
Okay. All right. We get under the surface and explore the down and dirty of life as it pertains to our beliefs, our relationships, politics, and absolutely everything else.
Oh, there we go. That was good. All right. Are you digging our theme music? Well, we dig it too. You can check out more Jane Gilman music at our website, janegilman.com, or you can download some of her music to your playlist on iTunes. That's GILLMAN.
Three, two, one.
We did it. We started the recording.
Neither one of us have anything to say, though. That's unfortunate.
See, my first.
Yeah.
I have a lot of things to say.
Oh, okay.
Starting with, do you have a separate guitar and or instrument for each day, each hour? For those of us who can't see, you have like 17 guitars behind you.
Yes.
Is it so you want to just impress people? In this case, you would just be impressing me because nobody else has any idea. Or do those actually get used besides like getting dusted every few months?
Yeah. Yep. Well, you could see the ukulele right here. That's Avery's.
That's the nice one.
That's
right?
Avery's electric uke, and he uses that every week to practice and for guitar lessons. This was their first ukulele that doesn't get utilized a whole lot anymore. This ukulele here was an upgrade from the black one. So that was the first one, then that one, and then Henry started playing ukulele. So then Henry went from the black one to that one, and then Avery got this one. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then this guitar here. So I know nobody can actually see this, but Seth, this is helpful for you. This would be Cade's.
Super.
This is Cade's first guitar.
That's a beaut.
It's a Yamaha, which all of my acoustic guitars. And this was my guitar. I had one like this when I was in high school, and I got rid of it, and then I bought another one like it. It's also Yamaha. And then I wanted an electric acoustic, so that's what this is, and this is a much nicer guitar.
And what does Yamaha mean again? Is it like
it's a
large white man?
Yeah,
with beard.
Yep. And then then I bought an electric guitar at some point in time, which I never really played that much, but Cade plays that primarily. That's his guitar now. So
okay,
there you go.
You're the real deal, man.
That's the history.
I just didn't know if you're.
That's the history, but I really only use I really only use this guitar right here. That's the one. That's the only one I ever play. But I've started to have a little neuropathy in my left hand, and so it's started to make it fairly painful to play guitar, and so I've kind of backed off.
That means what is it? It hurts or it's tingly or what when you play?
Yeah, like my nerve endings in my fingers are starting to change or be damaged or something. So it can cause like these two right here, specifically that one, can be
your middle finger
can get pretty painful. And actually, my nail feels weird right here, kind of all the time. So
have you looked into like getting? Is there some kind of physical therapy you can do or something?
I read about it, and it doesn't seem like there's much you can do. But I think there's some medications that help, but I haven't gone down that path. But I'm not a good enough guitarist to really warrant the additional expense. So, good morning, kids. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Morning. I was like,
morning.
holy cow! If they were waking up now,
after morning. Maybe they need their nap. They need their nap right now. But
or bedtime. Oh, it's getting dark outside, man. It's like 4:00.
It's not 4. Is it 4:00 there? No, it's not.
It is 4. It is 4 p.m.
Is it really?
4:01 to be exact.
Wow, okay. All right. Well,
that's okay. The time difference thing, 7 hours. It takes a lot of math and
it does take some
memorizing.
It does take some math and memorizing. Thank you.
It's easier if you just say whatever the heck comes to your mind and then I correct you.
I really appreciate that.
It's a lot easier than you actually figuring it out, you know?
It would cause a lot of dead space where we would just be not talking and I'd be doing a lot of math in my head and you would see you would see me being very confused and it wouldn't be good.
You're like, is it let's see, okay, is it a leap year? when did the time change? It's like, okay, let me think. It's 1:35.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how can it be 1:35? It's 6 p.m. Like, you have to actually match up the minutes as well. It's not just the 7 hours. It is funny. That does happen sometimes where people be like, hey, it's like 5:30 there. I'm like, how in the world could it be 5:30? It's right now. It's 00.
7 hours, man. It's in
7 hours.
Yeah, it's just
7 hours and 26 minutes.
Yeah.
That's wouldn't that be crazy if that was true? If it was like 26 minutes?
That would be.
You'd always have to,
that would definitely make the math more difficult. Yeah.
Oh man, Can you imagine us having to like set up any kind of time to do anything? We had to figure out the 26-minute thing.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh.
Yeah, that would make it complex. So if it was like 5:32 or 5:31, and you're like, oh man, what is it in Austria right now? That would be difficult. Do you feel, Seth? I've got a question for you. So we are into recording here. We're 6 minutes in to this recording, right? So we've been talking for 6 minutes. Do you feel like anybody is still listening at this point in time? So that's because we were just talking about prophecy a second ago before we started recording. So so I wonder, if we were just going to interject a little bit of like a prophetic message right now. So we're a few minutes into this. I wonder if anybody is still listening right now.
Like on any platform, there's like a skip forward 30 seconds. You know what I mean? So like if it gets to a point where you're like, oh, they're still talking about, their son's ukulele or whatever, then you could just like skip, and then it's like pre-tribulation. It's like, okay, stop.
Yeah, I mean the whole guitar ukulele conversation was only interesting to you because you're the only one that could actually see what I was pointing to. I just wonder.
But now people have insight. Now people have understanding and insight into who you are as a man and a father.
Yeah.
And a real hipster with a V-neck and a beard and big glasses. You actually play your guitar, right? You don't just have guitars.
Right.
So
I do.
I
do play guitar and I sing.
You sing very nicely. You have that guy who sings Moon River. It's pretty much that's how you sound. What's his name again?
I don't know. Moon River? I'm not familiar with it.
Moon River. You know?
Yeah.
He has one of the most classic voices that there ever has.
Sing a little more. I didn't quite get it.
Moon River.
Yeah.
I don't know the rest of it, but he sings a lot of the classic Christmas songs.
Is it Frank Sinatra or Bing Crosby?
No, it's not. I would have thought of those guys, but he was then in Branson, Missouri for a lot of years towards the end. I'm not sure if I think he might have passed away.
Really?
I'm pretty sure he did.
Well,
but yeah, he's got one of those smooth, buttery voices.
Yeah. Well, Bing Crosby, Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett, Steve Lawrence are all people that I think of when I think of that. But Harry Connick Jr. is too young, but he'd be another one.
Andy Williams.
Andy Williams. Okay. Your picture actually cut out when you looked that up. So, note to self: maybe don't Google anything while we're trying to look at each other.
Of a white Christmas.
Mm-hmm. That's Bing Crosby.
Yeah, it's a lot of people.
I mean,
but yes, I
think the most known version of that is Bing Crosby. I don't know.
It's probably true.
Because
I guess I'm trying to.
They had the movie
White
Christmas. They had the movie White Christmas.
You're up there.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
You're up there with all those guys.
Yeah. Well, I really like big band, crooner music. That's something that I really enjoy. I think at one point in time in my life, I kind of wanted to be a Frank Sinatra type. And that appealed to me. I liked the cigars that they smoked. I liked the music. Mm-hmm. I liked the suit and tie look, the whole thing. And so I think that's actually what probably inspired me to start smoking cigars when I was in my early 20s. I thought, man, those guys smoke cigars. I wonder what that would be like. That'd be kind of cool. And so then you go into cigar shops, and they are cool. They smell good, and so yeah, that's what got. I never really got into smoking cigarettes or anything else, but I liked smoking cigars. And then the guy at the cigar shop actually talked me into trying a pipe. And so then that takes you down. When you think of a pipe, what do you think of?
When I think of a pipe, the first thing that pops in my head is Gandalf.
Okay.
To be honest.
Okay.
And then I'm thinking of somebody like, who's the British Prime Minister during World War II?
Winston Churchill?
Winston Churchill. I think of him for some reason.
Okay.
Maybe he smokes a cigar. I don't know.
Yeah. See, for me, it triggered Sherlock Holmes. That's what the pipe, in my mind triggered, Sherlock Holmes. So when I was in my early 20s, or mid 20s, and I was single
or late 20s,
and I wasn't living in my mother's basement. Just, I want to preface this story with that, but,
Would that have been the assumption?
Well, I don't know. Maybe for those one or two people that have made it this far into our conversation, they may be thinking that by now. But so I had an apartment in what was an old hotel building, and I think it was 7 or 8 stories tall. And we had access to the roof of the building, and there was a cool deck up there. And so what I would do is in the evening on spring, summer, fall days is I'd go up onto the deck on the roof, and I would smoke my pipe, and I would read Sherlock Holmes. So, and other books too, but I definitely enjoyed reading Sherlock Holmes and little short stories and smoking my pipe. Now, married life has affected any cigar smoking or pipe smoking because my wife does not like how I smell after smoking a pipe. So that has basically taken that down to about 0. Like I just don't do it anymore.
Maybe if you want to smoke in the bedroom, she'd be more okay with it.
Yeah, she's never ever let me do that. That has never that has never happened.
Just another reason Natalie is smart and wise.
Yeah.
I think smoking in the bedroom is probably never a great idea. No?
I mean, it started a number of fires. I know a lot of fires have been started by people smoking in the bedroom, falling asleep, and then their cigarette inevitably lands on something, or their ashes do, and starts a fire on their bed, and which wouldn't be ideal. That wouldn't be an ideal situation. So yeah.
Also, how the fire in Rome. That's also how the fire in Rome started. Caesar was smoking a cigarette, fell asleep.
Camel.
Bet you didn't know that.
He was smoking a Camel.
Oh, at that time they didn't have Camels.
Oh, they didn't. Okay.
Obviously.
Okay.
No, it was a Roman a Roman stallion was what they were called.
Really, Roman stallion. I'm surprised that one didn't last. That's a great brand for cigarettes.
You know what? It got lost in the fire.
Stallions.
Got lost in the fire. Just one more thing.
Yeah.
Just like, that's crazy. Another thing about Romans, like the technology they had back then is unbelievable. Like the water systems.
Yeah.
We went to this place once, and it was like old Roman ruins, and they had all ended up dying out because of the plague or something. And so that's why it got left. But they had like hot water system, like some kind of crazy deal going on. And I was like, geez,
man, these guys knew what they were doing.
We used to have to wait sometimes for 50 seconds to get hot water. The Romans, they
knew what they were doing.
So I was horribly wrong about Winston Churchill. He did not smoke a pipe.
He didn't? Did you look it up?
I looked it up real quick. I think I was thinking of, and I had it in my mind too, as C.S. Lewis. They both seem like they're kind of chubbier, older Englishmen.
I feel like you're talking about me.
Winston
You've
Churchill.
You've already made this
cigar.
You already made like a reference. Is that a chubby white guy with a beard guitar? And now you're talking about chubby.
I didn't say that.
Chubby British dudes.
I said large, as in large. Large is like strong.
You didn't mean that.
I said large.
Yeah, okay.
And that, to me, I did. I was thinking of a Viking or a like a professional wrestler or something.
Yeah. I'm none of that. So
as we're still on the topic of speaking in tongues. From last week.
Yeah. Yeah, last week we were on that topic. I was going to say this week, I don't know if we've ever got on that topic. But go ahead.
I was thinking, it made me think about, and we mentioned this before, but it made me think about language. Because, like speaking in tongues, it's also referred to as like tongue of angels and the spirit, different things.
Right.
And made me think about language in general and differences. And as you know, or I think you knew this, but we live in a different country than we used to. So we don't live in the United States anymore, but we live in a country that speaks German. It's called Austria.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. That's why we have to do this over the internet all the time.
I was wondering. I just asked Natalie the other day. I said, "Where did Seth and Alyssa go?" I have not seen them for a while, and we've been
we were out driving mopeds, and then the next thing I knew,
that's
can't find them.
I can't find them. So you live in Austria, and
here we speak.
You speak a different language,
German.
do you?
And that's brought up a lot of, obviously that makes me think about a lot of things. As the longer I've lived here and the better my German language skills have gotten, the better my kids now, since they've been going to kindergarten and stuff like that, like they've gotten a lot better at German. Mm-hmm. And, our daughter can probably speak pretty much fluently. And our two boys who are also now going to kindergarten, they're speaking. And it's really fascinating to see and really cool to see, especially how you can just switch back and forth, between the languages. Mm-hmm. But when I think about it, the other thing I think about since I've lived here is how my mindset when it comes to what's like appropriate and inappropriate in language has changed sometimes, or like changes kind of depending on what language I'm speaking. Mm-hmm. For example, growing up where I did in my family and in my culture setting, whatever, like there's a lot of words that were just kind of taboo at our house, where I'm sure was the same probably at your house. You guys had words, or do now? Yeah. And so there's certain words like I can't even like bring myself to say, even though I don't necessarily think they're bad in and of themselves. It's just like it's so ingrained in me. Like those words are bad, right? Right. S word, F word, whatever, And so when I speak German, they have equivalents of those words, obviously. Yeah. Like every language has like their naughty words. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But like those words to me, they don't have the same meaning. So like if I would say the S word in German, like it doesn't really have like a deep like meaning to me. Because there's not like a history of like learning about that word or knowing like, oh, I shouldn't say that word.
You didn't grow up in a home where the German S word was bad.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. And
there is other words. I mean, there's a lot of words I think just in and of themselves, no matter what context you're in, that seem kind of just like dirty or seem kind of like not an uplifting word or a word that even makes sense to say, kind of. I think so. There's definitely a lot of words I don't ever want to say, no matter what language I'm speaking, I guess. But I was curious your thoughts along these lines of, are words that are deemed inappropriate, are they inappropriate because of our culture and our surrounding, or is there actually any words that are like in and of themselves bad or inappropriate? Does that make sense? So like, is it always just like, oh, well, for you, that's bad. For me, that's a word we use all the time and it has no negative meaning. Well,
so there is a scripture that talks about using vulgar language. So I'd have to look that up and just to see kind of what the original. I'm trying to remember if that's. I can't, for the life of me, I can't even think what that is right now as far as the reference. But
I'll try to find it while you're talking.
Yeah, but just to reference something else, actually, John Piper, in his Desiring God, has an episode where he does talk about language that we use. So that would be probably a good reference for somebody just to hear what he has to say about it. And he provides a lot of scripture references for it too. But I think we can just go to the Great Commandment, right? A lot of times for a lot of these things, and ask the question, is this loving my neighbor? And is it is it loving God? So a lot of times we don't have to get too complex with it and just ask some simple questions about, am I honoring God? Am I loving my neighbor? And using this terminology. And a lot of times that'll answer the question. But I think to like take it another step further, for instance, we do like a home church. And a lot of the people that come to our weekly gathering are unchurched people and people that may not be Christians yet, or are new Christians, or come from backgrounds of drug and alcohol abuse. So there's just a lot of different backgrounds. So it's not unusual on a Sunday morning, which is when we meet, to hear the F-bomb dropped. When somebody's talking, they'll just drop the F-bomb and they don't even realize that they've done it, and we don't make a big deal about it because it isn't a big deal to us, because that's just who they are right now. That isn't something that's, I don't want to say it's not important, because it is important. At some point in time, I think the Holy Spirit will start to work on their lives. But when you come from that kind of a background, like there are more pressing matters to work on first, I think, from the perspective of, I'm just guessing what the Holy Spirit wants to work on here. And so sometimes, I think it's about the context of who is using the language too. So, if you're at the point where that using that language could be offensive to somebody else, or and I think that's a big part of loving your neighbor, right? Is understanding. Paul talks about it, about meat, and food that has been sacrificed, right? He talks about it in 1 Corinthians.
Sacrifice to false gods, right?
To idols. Yeah, it just says to idols.
Idols, yeah.
Yeah. And so, he's like, even though we know that it's okay to eat this food, if it makes somebody else uncomfortable or they're offended by it, and they're a newer believer or whatever, they have a background with it, then don't do it. Don't eat it in front of them, because you're just going to cause them issues in their walk, and in their faith. And I think, where I've really experienced this, as far as just my encounters with other people, is alcohol. Because your brother and I, actually, we had a kind of a mutual friend that came from a home where his parents were alcoholics and abusive, and I mean, he'd just kind of been through the ringer with it. And so when he came to faith, alcohol was like a taboo subject for him. Like, as a Christian, you just don't drink alcohol. That is not something that Christians do, in his mind. And a lot of that was just because of his experience as a child, having alcoholic parents. And so, for us, the loving thing to do would not be to flaunt what we felt would be freedom to have a beer, so that would be an unloving thing for us to do, is the point I'm trying to make. And our language, does it edify the community? Is it loving and honoring to God? So I think a lot of this stuff can be taken, right back to the greatest commandment. And when thinking about some of this stuff, and when actually thinking about a lot of things. So, is that kind of like what you were thinking of?
Yeah, I mean, I think those are definitely good thoughts on that. And I mean, like you said, the example that Paul uses talking about sacrificing meat and then talking about alcohol, those can be good correlations because I think certain words invokes things in certain people, you know? Like if I say a certain word, whatever, like shoot, golly, doggone it, you know, to me that might not mean anything, but maybe, you know, when you were growing up, people called you that at school, and so then you start crying. Yeah. It's a dumb example, but you know what I'm saying? Like, and so I think but the hard thing is with that one and with alcohol is you really need to get to know people, right? Like you really, and it's not hard, but I'm just saying like it's a process. Like I can't know some of those things about you unless I know who you are and know how you take or what your experiences are. You know, I've experienced that different ways, like joking around, having fun with people. Like I can joke a certain way with certain people. With someone else, I cannot joke that way at all, you know? Right. Because they might get offended. And even if it's not like an offensive joke, if it's just like my what's the word in English? Like my
your
way
weird
of
brain.
My weird brain or whatever, you know what I mean? And I'm sure you've experienced that as well. I mean, I know you never make mistakes, right? But
I don't.
Say you did. If you did,
if I did,
you know, I'm sure you'd have that. And I've experienced that a few times where I have to go back and apologize to someone. Even though, like, you know, when I said it, it wasn't like I was trying to hurt that person or offend them. Right. But, like, I noticed pretty quick, like, okay, this is something that is not okay with this person. So I think that's a really good point with the language thing. I just think, like, I think for me, like, I was sometimes so narrow-minded or closed-minded about some of those things with language, where it's like, if you're alone at the park, right, and you like stub your toe and you say like, poop donuts or something, you know, and right. Is that poop like donuts? Yeah, is that bad? You know, yeah, is that evil in and of itself? Would it be the same thing if you said a different word? You know what I mean? Like, it's just the fact of you exclaiming something. Is that not good? Is there certain words that it's like, no matter what context, no matter if anyone hears, no matter if anybody's around, like that is a bad word. Like that kind of fascinates me, you know, like that part of it. Like, is there certain things where it's like, no, that in and of itself is evil or that's bad?
Well, I think Scripture would point us to God's name in vain. You know, if you use God's name in vain, no matter, that would get to the, does it honor God? Is it loving towards God? Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And everything else goes?
No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. I'm somebody that it takes a lot to offend me, but certain words will trigger other thoughts in our brains.
That's true, yeah.
And so even using a specific word may trigger other thoughts that aren't good. And so and so if we think about Christ and his ministry on earth, and he's talking about, you know, the 10 Commandments, and he's referencing lust, or, you know, any of those things that he talks about, or murder, and he expands upon that Old Testament thought, and he kind of gives it new life and new meaning, and just thinking like the things we think, you know, it's not just the things we actually physically do, but it's also the things that we think that are sin, and really reveal our brokenness. So if you used a word and it triggered thoughts that made you angry and aggressive and negative thoughts towards others and maybe wanting to harm others, that would have, the use of that word would have taken you down a path that is not something that Jesus himself, would say is good. So that would lead us into some sinful tendencies there. And there's a lot of words out there that I think trigger sexual thoughts too, just because of our culture. And so, there
like
again. Pineapple. Yep. I mean, you're not too far off. I mean, emojis, basically every vegetable or fruit has some significant meaning these days. So, and I mean, like if that is your culture, which if you're a teenager right now or in college, you've grown up, with every time you see a eggplant, right? Every time you see an eggplant emoji, that's just going to be in your brain, or a peach, or whatever. So, all of that stuff, for you and I, even though we know that information, when I see it, it doesn't necessarily trigger those thoughts, but for somebody else that's younger than we are, those thoughts will probably be triggered. And I'm guessing memories, because typically that stuff starts something, and that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg, right? So if you're texting somebody back and forth those emojis, there's more to follow. And so just that emoji in and of itself may trigger a whole list of memories that, probably 10, 15 years down the road when you're married with kids, and probably isn't a good thought process for you to be going down. So anyways, I think, Seth, you using the Lord's name in vain is always bad, but it's bad because it doesn't honor God. It's not loving to God. And then, other words too that can trigger, memories, thoughts, feelings of, lust and hate and, murder, essentially could be. Obviously those aren't good thoughts, because Jesus helped us kind of rethink the 10 Commandments a little bit, and how we think about our lives and what is sin and what is not. So,
yeah, I mean, and that brings up, it makes me think of Matthew 5, because we've been going through the book of Matthew in a Bible study that we have. In Matthew 5, where Jesus talks about that hate, and lust and things like that. But the one thing he says, right, is if you call your brother an idiot,
or
that's
fool.
Like the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like basically hate, and essentially like you wanting to murder him with your thoughts. And that's a big deal. And so that's what I think, and we talked about that I think yesterday a little bit, like, not necessarily the word, but your meaning and your intent. Because like if I call you stupid and I mean it, and I'm really angry at you, that could cut straight to your core, and that could really hurt you. And that could, especially like, we're both fathers, we have children. And if you say things like that to your children, that can affect them the rest of their life, right?
Yeah.
And it could be, you could be in your words, you always make sure you only use like the most proper words. And so you would never use like what we would say a curse word, but you might call your son dumb. I think that's going to be just as hurtful and just as damaging. I went to this conference, and one of the guys that was speaking, was talking about things, and one of the stories he brought up, because he was talking about, our filters, how we see other people and how we view other people based on their actions. And at one time, he was really upset with his son, who was like 6 or 8 at the time, something like that. And he said like, you're just an idiot or something. Like he was so upset. And then his son like got really serious and looked at him and he said, "Dad, I'm not an idiot. I just do idiotic things sometimes. I make mistakes."
Yeah.
And no, and it just like rushed, like the blood rushed out of his head, out of his body, you know, the father. And he was like, oh, wow, like that's very true and very wise, you know, of him to say that. And he obviously, you know, apologized and made up. But I think our words in that sense are very powerful and have effects on people. And I think that's why for me personally, like, I try for the most part, I just say like silly words instead of curse words, or just like, you know, like bananas or like coconut monkey, you know, whatever, like biscuits and gravy. That's, you know, that kind of thing.
The front door.
Yeah, well, that one does ring it. But yeah. Because like we were just talking about, there is so many triggers, right? There's so many words that have negative, even if for you it's like, oh, it's just a word, whatever. I'm not saying it in an angry way. I'm not saying it in a way to hurt someone. You could still do it accidentally. And so I try just to use like random words. Now with the emojis you're talking about, maybe me just saying like, peaches. Yeah, that one might get somebody thinking
that may cause somebody to have a whole nother train of thought. But you know, and I think there's just so many examples of saying things that you don't really give a lot of thought to, and it causes somebody just a lot of pain. And I had a coworker whose father told her, I can't remember if he said you look fat or you've put on weight. I don't think he said you look fat. I think he said that she had put on weight, like her first semester or year at college. I think it was her first semester. And so she went back to school and basically quit eating. And every time she would eat, she would go run whatever in her mind, you know, a mile or 2 miles or whatever it was to, you know, get rid of whatever she ate in her mind. And she just kind of wasted away for that second semester. And then basically one day her body just kind of gave out and she passed out, and that started the road to recovery for her. But, you know, I mean, just, I know her dad didn't mean that. You know, he didn't mean it to do how she internalized that. You know, she internalized that in a totally different way than what his intention ever was. It was an inconsiderate thing for him to say regardless. But yeah, we can say flippant things and not really think about how it could be taken by that person, and you know, and I know I do it on a more regular basis than what I wish I did. You know, I had an experience the other day where I was just trying to explain. I was having a theological type discussion with somebody, and I know the way I tried to explain it it just didn't come across right, you know, and it didn't. I was trying to be sensitive, and I was trying to use some language and examples that I felt like this person might find helpful, and instead I think it just made it more confusing. And so I still feel bad about that, and I haven't seen that person, you know, since that time. But next time I see him, I'm gonna talk to him about it and just apologize, because I think I made it more confusing for them instead of less confusing. That was not my intention. And so there's just so many examples and stories that I probably could share with you about that. But
the dumb things you said.
All the dumb things I've said.
Amen, brother.
Yeah.
I
But
know
my
what you're
boys, I have a funny story about my boys. Did I share this with you yesterday about the S word? Did I share the S word story with you?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So our boys, we when they were little, especially, and we told them that using the word stupid was not a good word to use, and that you could hurt other people's feelings by calling them stupid, because rarely would they say, this project is stupid, or whatever, describe some inanimate object with the word stupid. They would always be describing each other with the word stupid. And so that just became a word that we didn't use in our house. And so the boys started school, and it was just not something we really had to think about anymore. And they were talking in the back seat, and they were talking about somebody using the S word at school. Mm-hmm. And it was like to the point that Natalie and I had almost forgot that was even a thing, because it wasn't an issue anymore. And so we kind of look at each other, and she's like, "You hearing this conversation?" I said, "Yeah, I hear it." And she's like, "Do they even know what the S word is?" And I'm like, "Man, I don't think so. I don't think they know what it is." And so we say, hey guys, what word are you talking about? And they just kind of got all like stone faced, like, we're not even going to say it. And we're like, "No, it's okay. You can tell us, what the word is that you're talking about." And then they reminded us basically that, stupid, they said stupid. And, it's just funny, because once they get into a more public context at school, they're obviously going to encounter a lot more. And tolerances are totally different in other homes. A lot of kids, unfortunately come from very broken homes, and homes with just a lot of issues. And not that we don't have issues, but there's definitely more serious issues out there than what our children experience on a normal daily basis. So, but yeah, so that's kind of a funny story, as a parent.
And that's, I think, what our kind of, because as we think about this kind of topic, I'm sure we think a lot about our kids and how we teach them and interact with them about this, and I think that's probably what we're both wanting to instill in our children, is how they treat other people and what words they use, and not so much like, okay, this word in and of itself is horrible, even though there are some words, right, that we could say that about, but more so like, your words have power. Calling someone an idiot, even if you're just upset because he took your bike, or he punched you in the arm or whatever, like, that has power, that has effect, and I think that's what I want our kids to. There's certain words that, like, especially like you were saying, it's often so flippant or in the moment, but you instilling that in your children at a young age, I think, like, even if in the moment you become angry, or in the moment you're just going to say something, the first thing that comes to your head is probably not going to be, for your kids, stupid, because they just have that, like, kind of maybe wiped out of their even vocabulary. You know what I mean? And I think that's really awesome, like, that, to be able to just encourage them, encourage our children, encourage each other, like, hey, that's a word we're not going to use, and and as you just train yourself that way, it's just like far away from your thoughts. Yeah.
Unfortunately, most words are not far away from my thoughts, because
you're a horrible person.
I basically am, like, my core. When I was in high school, I used many words, descriptive words to describe many different situations, and so those things are still with me, and I listened to music that used very descriptive language, and so I was just exposed to a lot of that, and that doesn't just go away, and that's why I really encourage for my own children. I'm going to be more aware of kind of what's happening in their context, and not just kind of look the other way and pretend like it isn't happening, So I was just exposed to a ton of stuff, just through very innocent means. You go over to a friend's house to play, and all of a sudden they're showing you their dad's stash of porn, in his drawer,
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Just and my parents never thought anything of it. And of course I didn't tell them about it. But yeah, so as a parent, especially, you just have to be so aware of, where and what and who you expose your children, because these things can have very lasting effects in their lives. So anyways, so needless to say, we don't really let our kids go to a lot of people's houses that we don't know well. We really want to know who these people are. So there's just not a lot of people that we're comfortable to send our kids over to their place, because we just don't really know what they might be exposed to, or we do know. We do. Sometimes we do know what they'll be exposed to, and so we're just very careful with that. Or sometimes, man, we say, okay, in this situation, it'll probably be okay, but we want them to be aware of some of the things that they may see, or hear. And a lot of times it's just like language. We know that they're going to hear some language that we just don't use in our home. And so we're not trying to isolate them from the world. We're just trying to help them process the world in a good way. In a loving way too. We encourage our children to befriend kids that, come from more difficult home situations, and we know that they're going to experience and encounter some things that we don't want them to engage with per se, but we do want them to engage with the person, and we do want them to be loving and relational. And so
is that why every time we come visit, you send your kids up to the room, like, okay, you guys can come back on Sunday when they leave? I don't want you spending...
It has something to do with it.
Because I was always like, oh, they must be sick or something, so they must have to stay in their room. But I was like, now it makes sense. It makes more like, like that's German what they're speaking. I know it sounds inappropriate, but it's just what Seth and Alyssa talk about. But just to be safe, you guys go on up and play. Yeah,
or like those really short shorts that you wear that show just a little too much.
Okay, I don't.
Yeah,
I don't.
Yeah, you do have great legs. It's just we don't feel it's appropriate for them to see that sometimes. So.
No, I understand. It's the same when we come visit. I'm just like, okay, kids, you can talk to Natalie. Natalie's wonderful. Maybe don't spend so much time with Tyler, but
who's the fat American? Who's the fat American, right?
Be respectful, wave and smile. If he offers you any of his turkey steaks or deer steaks that he killed, accept it,
Takes a deer meat.
Shake his hand and walk away.
Yeah.
And then
that's pretty much what they do. Actually, they don't even shake my hand. They just walk away.
Hey, maybe you have short-term... I have pictures of you sitting on the couch reading books to all our kids. So. Oh no,
I'm trying to think like what day it was when they finally started to warm up to me. But the initial, the welcoming community was a little chilly. They just kind of like strange looks, like, who is that dude? Why is he here? And I'm thinking, I know, well, we left the next day when I arrived at your place, but probably by the second day back, when we got back from the retreat, they were pretty much on my lap, and I was reading them books, and we were having a great time and wrestling and having fun. So that's always a fun point to get to, and
I noticed that.
But I think it's good actually that little kids use a little caution in who they warm up to. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty amazed actually. I noticed it again today when we were out at the park. That I think all of my kids. Well, Andrew's pretty young, so I think he really doesn't have an idea of what's going on so much in those kind of settings. But like, they are very observant, right? They like really do take time to like observe. Okay, who are these people? What are they about? What are they doing? And then like they feel safe, or they see maybe us interacting with them, or they get to a place where they see like, okay, this is a good situation, and then then they'll open up, and then they'll be totally interactive and stuff. And so I've noticed that a number of times recently, and I do think that's pretty cool. I'd rather have it be that way, I think, than the opposite, I guess. So yeah, it's really hard, with the kiddos, because we've had some situations recently where we thought it was okay, for our kids to hang out, and then on the back end we've had to pull back, and that's difficult. So, and the boys have a hard time kind of understanding, like, hey, it was cool a week ago, why isn't it cool this week? And and we're like, well, because we didn't realize the situation as well as we thought. We didn't understand this person or these people as well as we thought we did. And so that's difficult, and you feel bad in those situations because that person is going to definitely take it personal. Yeah, it'll be a personal thing, and it's hard to explain, to somebody like, hey, we didn't realize that you were struggling with some of these mental health issues, and we didn't understand that, it could potentially become a not safe situation or something for our children. Doesn't mean we can't hang out. It just means that this aspect of it needs to change a little bit. But yeah. You've changed significantly. So when we started this conversation, you had a bright light shining on your face. Now you're like the Doobie Brothers, with like the black background. I can barely even. Is it the Doobie Brothers? No, I don't think. I think that's wrong. I don't know,
the Doobie
man.
Brothers.
I think you might have been rolling a doobie when you made that up.
Neil Simon or Neil Simon.
What? Paul Simon?
Yeah, no, Paul Simon.
Art
Paul
Garfunkel?
Simon, Neil Garfunkel. Yeah.
No,
yeah,
Art Garfunkel.
Art Garfunkel. There we go. Neil Young. There we go. That's a totally different thing. But anyways,
Neil
I do
Lennon,
love Neil Young.
What
was the name?
Garfunkel and Neil Lennon.
It's not the Righteous Brothers. What did they call themselves? What was their group name?
For which one now?
Simon and Garfunkel. There we
Simon and Garfunkel. I was like, you mean like their last names?
What did they call them? Simon and
like
but the one, I think, aren't they wearing like black turtlenecks and it's all like a black background and it's just their faces? That's what you look like right now. I don't know if it's
black background, but yes, they have turtleneck wear. They have some turtleneck wearage happening.
Yeah.
Oh man,
have you seen?
They got a good.
There's a spoof documentary.
Spinal Tap?
Called Documentary Now. It's like a series. Have you seen that?
Yeah, you showed me last. Did
I show you that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Last time you were here, or like the only time you were here, or last time we were in the States, you showed me. Yes. That
they have a Simon and Garfunkel spoof that's pretty funny. But
So are we wanting to promote that show? Do you feel comfortable promoting that show?
Documentary now? I mean, it's pretty hilarious. The one I really like is the reporters that go down and interview the cartel in Mexico. Yeah. That's the one that I get a huge kick out of. Especially when they try to blend in with those cowboy boots, you know.
I am a pilgrim and a stranger and traveling through this wearisome land. I got a home in that yonder city, oh Lord, and it's not.
Hey guys, it's Seth. Some of you might be wondering, I wish there was a way to follow these guys and what they're up to. Well, I don't know if you heard about a little thing called the internet. That's right. If you check us out at twitter.com/WeWillJourney1, you'll be able to keep updated on what we're up to and maybe some future interviews or projects we're working on. Catch you later.
And I'm made by hand. I've got a mother, a sister, and a brother who have gone to that sweet home. Well, I'm determined to go and see them, a good Lord, over on that distant shore. As I go down to that river of Jordan, just to bathe my weary soul. If I could just touch the hem of his garment, good Lord, I believe it would make me whole. When I'm dead, laying in my coffin, all my friends all gather round. They can say I'm just sleeping, good Lord, a sweet peace I have found.